Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of round 9, the last round of Norway Chess 2018, the strongest 10-player event of the year. And what a dramatic last round it was. At the start of the round, 4 players were in the lead. The world champion Magnus Carlsen and the 3 giants from US chess, Wesley So, Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura. The round had only just begun, and there was already a draw in Vachier-Lagrave against Carlsen. Then Aronian and Nakamura also made a draw. So both Carlsen and Nakamura did not have matters in their own hands anymore. Then Karyakin lost to Anand, which meant that suddenly Anand was back in contention. If the game between Caruana and So would also end in a draw, then there would be 5 players in joint first place, and those 5 would then have to come back the next day, Friday, to play a blitz tournament to decide on the winner. So the only game that was going on was Caruana against So. If one of the players won the game, they won the tournament. If it was a draw, there would be a 5-way tie. Let's have a look at what happened in that game. Here we see both players in full concentration during the game. It's the 7th of June 2018. White is Fabiano Caruana, black is Wesley So. E4 from Caruana, E5 from his opponent, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6, So plays the Berlin, d3, bishop c5, castling, knight d4, that knight was swapped, bishop takes back and bishop a4, anticipating that bishop to be kicked with c6. c6 came anyway, c3 kicking the black bishop, bishop b6, knight a3, d6, bishop c2, bishop e6, queen e2, h6, king h1, and here Wesley So played g5. This is move 12, and by this time Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Magnus Carlsen already had drawn their game, and they came into the live broadcast and talked about this position. They thought knight g4 was the best move, and because of the threat of queen h4 and then checkmate on h2, they thought that g3 would be forced now for Caruana. And Carlsen even said black can even return now with his knight after having forced white to make that concession on the king side. But h5 is another move. But Wesley So did not go for knight g4, he went for g5. Knight c4 from Caruana, bishop c7, knight e3, d5 and rook e1. Caruana said something very honest in his interview after the game. He said he had been very unhappy with his play in the opening, that he was wasting time, didn't play well, and regretted some of his last few moves. And about rook e1 he said that he did not see a move to play, and he just made a solid move, rook e1. Queen e7 from Wesley So, a4 from Caruana, and So castled queenside. And here Caruana said that he felt a bit better, his moves started to flow more quickly, and he made better moves. He played rook b1. Of course we have opposite side castling. White has castled on the king side, black has castled on the queen side, and that is always a guarantee for a very exciting play. White will attack on the queen side, black will attack White's king on the king side, and that's what happens in this game. d4 from So, knight back to f1, and bishop b6. Caruana explained his move. He said So wanted to make sure that if White takes on d4 that he can take back with the bishop. But Caruana said he did not think this was the right way to play. He thought black should have played rook d g8 instead, or rook h g8, and then go with h5 and g4. And he called this very unpleasant for white. But bishop b6 was played, and bishop d2 was Caruana's reply, And here comes a very instructive move from Wesley-So. He played bishop g4, hitting the queen, and after f3 the bishop went back to e6. Did black not just lose time? No, he didn't, because he created this target, as Caruana calls it, and it's also called a hook. He wants to push his g-pawn later, and then he will threaten to open up lines by g takes f3 using that hook that he created with this bishop g4 and bishop back to e6 maneuver. Very instructive. Knight g3 from Caruana. He said he had to stop knight h5. Knight h5 was a threat, and knight g3 prevents that. Rook h8 was played, and Caruana goes on the queen side, b4. g4 from So. Caruana thought this was the wrong way to start an attack. He said g takes f3 is not a threat because I will take back with my queen or even with the pawn. And knight g3 is a very good piece. He felt So should have started his attack with h5 instead. After g4, Caruana played a5. So took on c3. Bishop takes back, and bishop d4. That bishop was swapped, the rook took back, and b5. Another instructive moment. Here Wesley-So played c5. He does not want to open up any lines against his king. The king can be vulnerable there on c8, so he wants to keep those lines closed and not take on b5 and give the white pieces open files. Bishop b3 was played by Caruana, and he said he was happy here. He thought he was better, or at least not worse. h5 from So. Knight f5. That piece was taken. E takes f5, and Caruana said, here I cannot be worse. My bishop is really strong. Rook e8 from Wesley-So, and here Caruana said that he wanted to play b6 and that he regretted not playing this. It turns out that b6 is a very strong move. This pawn will be very strong there. And that black's king is quite weak. Caruana said he wanted to play b6 on the next move, but then Wesley-So went into action, as we'll see, and changed the position. Caruana played rook bc1, and Wesley-So now took on f3. Caruana said he would have played king b8 himself if he had been black instead of g takes f3. But he also admitted, well, let's move that, put that move on the board, king b8, then b6 as planned, and a6. And Caruana admitted that it's not easy to put your king on b8 with a pawn on b6. If white can break through, he's winning, Caruana said. This king can indeed be very, very vulnerable there on b8. He doesn't have these squares to flee to. G takes f3 was played by Wesley-So. Caruana took back with the queen, and rook e d8. Change of plan. He does not want to play on the king side anymore. He now wants to play on the d file, Wesley-So, switching his point of attack. He's attacking the d3 pawn with both rooks, and Caruana played bishop c4 to protect that pawn. And Caruana said that he thought his position was so good that he did not really see a move for black. But Wesley-So saw a move. He's going to sacrifice two pawns for an attack. Here comes the first one, e4. Caruana said he did not believe in the attack, but it's going to be very exciting. Caruana took the pawn, queen e5, and there goes the second pawn. Also, Simon Agdestein, Norwegian Grandmaster, in the live broadcast did not believe in the attack. He thought two pawns was too much. But let's see what Wesley-So came up with. He played first rook d3, hitting the queen. Queen dropped back to f2, and there comes the second rook, and bishop d5. Caruana thought he was winning here. He did not see a move for black. So played king d7. And this is move 37. Both players were very low on time, especially Caruana. And it was another very honest moment from Caruana. He said that he panicked here and that he played b6, which was a bad move. He said what he should have done is play a waiting move, and a waiting move is just taking that pawn on b7. And white is indeed winning. Caruana was also asked about rook takes c5, and this is another instructive moment. Caruana said he had not considered that move simply because he did not want to leave his back rank. The back rank can get weak for white, black is attacking, so he did not want to take his rook off the back rank. So rook takes c5 did not enter his head. The move that did enter his head was h3 in this position. In fact, Caruana said everything in me was screaming to play h3. But it's good that he didn't do it, because then black would have played rook d2, and you cannot go to e3 because there is rook 4 to d3, and then queen takes c5 does not work. You get checkmated with this wonderful rook sacrifice on h3. If you take it, you get checkmated on the spot. And if you don't take it, but play king g1, you get checkmated anyway. Queen h2 check, king f1, and checkmate. So, after rook d2, you cannot go to e3 and then take on c5. You have to play the queen back to g1. And Caruana said, I have to play this, and it's not what I wanted. So he saw on time that h3 was not the right move. And then he came up with the panic move b6 in terrible time trouble. It doesn't spoil anything, but taking on b7 would have been better. So took on b6, a takes b6, and knight g4. All four black pieces are attacking the poor white king. And here Caruana said he had a hallucination. He thought queen h4 would be good. But then black has this wonderful move, rook h3, with a checkmate threat. White has bishop e6 check, but the king goes to e8 and there are no checks with the queen. So you have to give your queen for the rook. And there is knight f2 winning that queen. King g1, knight takes h3 check, g takes, rook d2, and checkmate will follow. Black wins. So queen h4 does not work, and Caruana played queen g1. It is move 39. Caruana had under a minute left. King d8 from Wesley-So, and in the live broadcast they were saying, is white in a zugzwang position? No, he is not. The best move here, which Caruana did not find, is rook f1, a solid move. To make the time control, this is move 40, and prepare f5, f6, f7, supported by the rook on f1. But Caruana played h3 instead, throwing away the win. Caruana thought he was winning, but he had missed a move, as we'll see later. Wesley-So let his clock tick down till about 8 seconds before he made his 40th move. Rook takes h3 check, and that is a very strong move. Caruana only has one move, g takes h3, he played it immediately, and books should be written about the 41st move, the first move after the time control. Wesley-So knew he had made the 40 moves because his clock jumped to 50 minutes, but still he did not take time, he did not get up from the board to compose himself. He immediately played rook d3 and threw away half a point and his chance to win the tournament. What he should have played and what he would have found if he had taken the time is that rook d2 makes a draw. And why does it make a draw? Well, there's too many pieces now looking at h2. So white will have to take the knight, h takes d4, and there's a threat of queen h8 check. A backward queen move. What a wonderful game this is. and it will be checkmate on h2 on the next move. So in this variation, white has to give his queen, queen g2, queen h8 check anyway, king g1, and there goes the queen. King takes, and black now has a perpetual, and that's a draw. Queen h3 check, and there's no way for white to escape the perpetual. I'll just show you a few moves. Nothing that white can do against this. So back to the game. G takes h3 for the first move. Rook d2 should have been played, but rook d3 was played, and now white is winning again. Caruana found the right moves. Queen g2, and if you now take on h3, then queen takes. You win the queen with knight f2 check with the fork. King g2, knight takes h3, king takes h3. There is no perpetual, and white is material up and is winning. If you think that the queen and two rooks are about the same value, then white is a piece up. Rook takes h3 check was not played by Wesley So. He played rook g3. And Caruana found the right move. H takes g4. Rook takes queen. King takes. And h4 from Wesley So. And now white has to make sure that black does not have a perpetual. That's the only thing, because he is again that piece up on d5. Caruana said it can be easy to blunder perpetual. I need to bring my king to the center. He said d3 is a very nice square, safe square for the king. And once my king is safe, I can take on b7 and push my f-pawn, supported by a rook on f1. And as long as both rooks are on the first rank, this pawn will never reach h1. That square is under control of the two rooks. After h4, Caruana played king f3. So gave a check, but there goes the king on its way to the queen side to safety. h3, rook g1, queen back to h4, and the last move of the game, e4, e5. Caruana said now even the bishop defends the king and controls the h1 square. So there's nothing else to do for black. He will not get a perpetual, and the h-pawn will not go anywhere. And Wesley So extended his hand and congratulated Fabiano Caruana on the game and on the tournament victory. What a dramatic game. Caruana said, I'm happy with the win, but it wasn't a good game. Well, maybe it wasn't a good game by his standards, but I'm sure you agree that this was very, very exciting and dramatic. The moment of resignation, Wesley So shaking Fabiano Caruana's hand. And Caruana, before he went to the press conference, had to sign t-shirts. The final standings, Fabiano Caruana wins the event. He started with a loss in the first round against Magnus Carlsen. Then he won a game and finished the tournament with 2 more wins, finishing on +2, ending in first place by himself. 3 players on +1, Nakamura, Carlsen and Anand. 2 players on 50%, So and Aranyan. Mamedyar from -1, and Karyakin and Vachier-Lagrave will want to forget about this tournament very quickly. This only heightens the expectations for the World Championship match between Carlsen and Caruana in November of this year. Both players got something from this tournament. Caruana finished above Carlsen, like he did in the Granke Classic earlier this year. But Carlsen beat Caruana in their game in the first round. It will be very exciting in November. Hope you enjoyed this video and the coverage of Norway Chess 2018 on the Chess to Impress channel. If you liked it, please give the video a thumbs up and please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel. Please leave a comment, I will read them all and I will reply to them all. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. The link is in the description box. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.